What's up?
So,
We're back
Hey guys,
with episode number 244.
I got 2
244.
under my belt.
Right on. Yeah, we're coming up close to 250. We're gonna plan something special for that. We're all gonna rent tuxedos and all that kind of fun stuff. So,
or maybe not.
No,
I think
not here.
We're
I think we're gonna have a special guest. I think we're gonna have a debate between President Trump and Vice President what's her name, Kamala Harris, on that episode, and then we're also gonna have special guests. I think my grandma's gonna come on the show, so it's gonna be a good time.
Well, okay.
None of that stuff is true.
No.
Although I could get my grandma's been dead for a long time. Probably get my mom on the show. She's 80, so that would be interesting.
Hey, speaking of that, speaking of how wacky and weird the world is, did you hear that Jakey Lee got shot at today while he was walking his dog?
Yeah, I read that on one of the news outlets.
What the heck? I guess he's okay, but I mean, how can you? I don't know, man.
It's Las Vegas, man.
It's a very far different world than it was 20 years ago.
I don't understand. I mean, we typically shoot back here, but I guess I don't know what the gun laws are in Nevada. But anyway, on a lighter note, let's talking about something that's just frivolous and happy, like sophomore efforts.
Yep.
In
but
rock
before
and
we do that, don't you have a
POW
pick of the week?
Yeah, I do have a couple of picks of the week. And we'll start with
we need a little thing that a little graphic that goes boom POW.
Yeah, I'm still working on it. I'm trying to figure out how this Roadcaster thing works. I mean, I really dig it. It's got all sorts of cool features, but just spending the time to try and I didn't even know it had a SIM card, and Rob pointed that out to me earlier in the week and said, "Oh yeah, you just take the SIM card out." And I'm like, "Well, that makes things easier." But anyway, okay, pick of the week. Here's my rock pick of the week. And I don't think I'm going to get any pushback on this one. Scorpions Worldwide Live. I don't know why I haven't really listened to this in a while, but I'm silly for not listening to this for a long time. This thing, it's a great compilation of hits from right in their wheelhouse years, and the production is great. The song selection is great. The musicianship is awesome. And so I think everybody, especially when we talk about best live albums, I mean, this is a preeminent one of those, a good live album. So Scorpions Worldwide Live is my rock pick of the week. It's a great value, too. I found this one. This one, it looks like we talked earlier about Steve buying some cool records, and he had one that looked like it had never been played. Well, I doubt this thing's ever been played. My metal pick of the week, the new Gate Creeper. This is called Dark Superstition. It's kind of cool. It's on purple vinyl. They were just here last night here in town, but this is kind of a throwback to what got them started. They were a little more heavy and had a lot more riffage. But Gate Creeper, highly recommended. They're a newer band, but if this is where death metal's headed, then I'm encouraged. But so those are my picks of the week: Scorpions Worldwide Live and Gate Creeper, Dark Superstition.
And speaking in the vein with Gate Creeper, I've been listening to the Blood Incantation all week long.
Oh gosh,
and that may be my favorite record of the year now. I haven't got the vinyl copy yet, but man, that thing is so fucking good.
Yeah, I bought the Dayglow Green Glow in the Dark split, and I also bought the one with the book, the Blu-ray. They also, in the Blu-ray package, they also have a live version of the whole album.
I think that's their best album, too, so far.
I really dig it. Some people were naysaying it because it's like, I don't want to hear any ambient stuff like Time Wave Zero, which I really, really like, too. But this is such a perfect blend of both. And
yeah, I like how they mix a little bit of the ambient. They mix a little bit of that Pink Floyd. Sound in there. Man, have you listened to it yet, Scott?
No.
You'll love it too. It's
no, I never actually heard of it.
You've never heard of it?
I've never heard of that one. No.
They're a scribble. Well, I call them a scribble band where you can't read the logo, but they're complete. They're awesome.
They don't sound like their logo. Like I was given their first album by somebody, and I was like, I'm not gonna like this. I don't usually like the 90s and the modern.
You can't go by the logo all the time. That's for sure.
They're not really what most of us would consider a straight up death metal band. They mix so many different elements to their sound, and it's so good.
But they come from several different directions. Paul Riedel was in Hovercraft, which was a Tangerine Dream knockoff band in Germany, basically. A lot of ambient soundscapes. And so that's where the Time Wave Zero thing came in. But this is such a perfect blend of all those elements. I mean, and I promise you, I think it's on the second, right near the beginning of the second side or the end of the first side, where they, I thought it was David Gilmour singing a background vocal or a chorus.
Yeah, it's really good.
And then that riff that he was playing, I think it's a masterpiece. And if you don't like it, I'll meet you in the parking lot. But I don't really care. I love that record. I think it's like you, I saw it and I thought, the Angry Rob Doom down in Houston says that if you can't read the logo, then the band's going to suck. Yeah. Well, he's absolutely wrong on this one.
On this band, yeah.
I mean, it's amazing. I still can't get it out of my player. In fact, I put that album with the 12-inch EP that they put out with one song on one side, one song on the other.
I didn't like that one, but that one was straight up Tangerine Dream.
There was a band I just recently got into, and they're called Massacration. Now, you think of their name. For me, I think it would have been death metal band, but the logo is like that. Listen to the music. It's new wave of traditional heavy metal. It's crazy. Like you say, the logos can be deceiving.
Well, I mean, Blood Incantation, they are a death metal band, just not the death metal that all the other 90s and 2000s. It's not the just speed for speed's sake.
And gurgling and gargling.
Like a lot of the bands, it's really dynamic, and they mix a lot of different sounds in with it. And it's, is this one about space too? Most of their themes are space as opposed to like death and rape and whatever ridiculous death metal idea you can come up with. It's something different all around.
Yeah, life is temporary, and there's an afterlife and multi-dimensions and time travel, and that's what they're singing about. But there's a kind of a huge wave of that here recently with Mortiferum, Mortuus, Ossuarium, even Gatecreeper to a certain extent. They're more straight up metal, death metal. But Frenolith is another one from Sweden that has that same vibe to them. But the ambient funeral doom death metal is kind of a new genre or a tweaked out version of death metal. But
hey, what's up, Lee?
Brother Lee's on here. Who else we got? Mark Chaos. What's up, Mark?
Yeah, from all the way from Melbourne, Australia. Thank you.
I'm the #1 king of war metal.
I don't know about that. Okay. Maybe he's
a greeting to you, John.
The lair of the Minotaur.
We've got metal overkills here, and of course, gave me in hair metal, and I pulled a couple records just for him, assuming he would be here. So we don't have hair metal Rob with us today. I went ahead and pulled a couple that Rob suggested. So
I only pulled one, but I'm pretty sure one of you guys will have it too. I did see Creator and Testament the night before last, and man, if they're playing in your area, that show was amazing. Creator, I thought Creator was going to be hard to beat, but Testament was really good. And what made Testament even better than the last 3 or 4 times I've seen them is they only played songs from the first 2 records. So it was straight up old school. I would have liked to have heard Practice What You Preach, but hearing stuff like Do or Die and a couple other deep cuts that they haven't played live since the 80s or 90s was fantastic.
Who was playing drums?
What's that? It's a guy I'd never heard of before. Dober or Do something like that. He was really good. He sounded better than Lombardo did when I saw him a year and a half ago.
Is it Glenn Drover's brother? The
I
guy
don't
from
think it's Drover.
Eidolon? Remember they
I don't
used to
think
be in Megadeth. Glenn Drover and
No,
I want to
no.
say Dave or Don.
Chris Dovis.
Chris Dovis.
Chris
I've never-
Dovis. Yep, I just looked it up.
Yeah, I've never heard of him before. He was fantastic, though.
Because the last time I saw Testament, they had Gene Hoglan. Too bad, right?
Well, and Gene Hoglan kind of ruined Testament for me because every time I saw him with Gene Hoglan, they were 10 out of 10. And then I saw him with Dave Lombardo, and it was only like the second night of the tour, so he was new back to the band, and he was kind of off the whole night. He sounded good, but he was like missing. You know, Testament's one of those bands where you know every single lick, every single drum beat, every single fill, you know, and he just wasn't doing it. The cool thing about him, though, was they were playing stuff off of Demonic and the Gathering, which they never play, you know. But no, the other night it was a killer show.
Yeah, they're going to be here next week.
Yeah, it's worth it.
Yeah,
it's
like
worth the $25 or whatever it was. Possessed,
better than paying $300.
That's true. Didn't you? I heard you had a little a fun time too there, John, with a couple of metal vocalists, legendary vocalists.
Well, we ended up not going. I didn't hear back from James, but yeah, James.
Oh.
There was a gathering of great Texas metal vocalists here in town on Saturday with George Call, James Rivera.
Wow.
Rumor has it that, in fact, the song that they're doing is like straight up Halloween choir background vocals, shout vocals type thing. And it involves Mike Solis and Jason McMaster and Robert Lowe. And
Wow.
I mean, name a great Texas metal
lineup
vocalist.
there.
So, and yeah, but I don't know. I didn't hear back from James. And so we just, you know, our weekends are so
in the studio. They were in the studio, or
no? George does a like a 70s rock metal thing, and you know, he can sing pretty much anything. Hey, Xander, Colorado representing today, Xander Harden. But you know, he pretty much can sing anything. So he does this 70s rock metal thing, and they were performing up in Louisville, which is just about 40 minutes from me. And I was waiting to hear back from James as to what they were going to do, but then I just never heard back. And then I got involved in
other stuff
and resting because we got one more weekend of moving because you know, that's it. She's had the house in the other house for until the end of the month, and so we've got one more weekend of moving and packing, and that's what we've been doing in our spare time. So all the other activities have taken a back seat because the following week on the 23rd we're gonna zippity doo dah out on a boat and go see the Headbangers boat thing.
Right on.
Go to the Dominican. Be fun. Lamb of God, Napalm Death, Exodus, Frozen Soul, Chimera.
You have to see Lamb of God?
Huh?
You have to see Lamb of God. I'm sorry.
I'm going to make sure I bring you back a T-shirt, Scott, because I know that's your favorite band.
I've seen them like 3 times with other bands.
That's the band I've seen the most, and I've never liked them.
I hope they have one that says "I love Lamb of God" because I'll bring them one back for each of you.
Well, right on. Let's get into our topic because we're already almost 15 minutes in, and we've got 4 guys here who have
by
picks.
the way, has anyone heard of the British version of Testament?
I saw that come up, and
there was one.
I don't know that I have
the new wave of British heavy metal, so I'll have to check it out because I'm not aware of that one. But the funny thing is, I was actually, you say new wave of British heavy metal. I was just listening to this the other day. Anybody picked this thing up? I think it came out last year.
I don't have that one, but I've got like 4 other box sets that look just like that.
It's all the Neat Records singles for it's like a 4-disc set of all the singles that came out on Neat Records. It's pretty cool.
I've got 2 of those, but they're not Neat Records. It's all the Neat Records songs, but it's not actually Neat Records that put it out.
Hey, Tanner Pop is here. Yeah, we were just talking about that.
Yeah, we were
Tanner.
just talking about that, Tanner. Oh man, I should have pulled the second Mativa, or not Mativa,
Madrost.
Madrost. Yeah.
I don't know. I couldn't.
All right. Well,
sorry, Tanner.
let's get into this. So I guess I'll go first.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna pull out an obvious one and see if everybody agrees. So basically, what we're talking about is bands who avoided the sophomore slump or overcame the sophomore slump. And what the sophomore slump is, if you don't know, is you've got your whole life to record your first record up till the point you record it, and then your second album you have only a handful of months or weeks or maybe a year at best. So a lot of bands have put out sophomore albums that were just not quite as good. But like for instance, and this is just one, I personally think the second Boston album is great, but most people think that was a sophomore slump. It wasn't as good as the first album. So, but that's
I would say that's a bad example because they still spent 5 years making it, whereas most bands, the reason the second album sucks is because they spend 5 years making the first record, and the label forces them to put out a second record really fast, and they don't have the good songs for it.
But I'm gonna pull out.
Ooh, nice.
Rainbow Rising, which of course the first album is good, if not great. I mean, it's funny because I rarely listen to this one. I do like it. But this thing is just like all out classic, one of my all time favorite albums, and I just think they upped their game. Everything from the musicianship to Dio's vocals on this thing were just
great choice.
Perfect. Perfect. I mean, I like this album so much. I've got a giant 4x4 banner hanging on my ceiling behind me. So it's also got obviously a classic cover art on it. But
that's one of the best Hypnosis album covers too, I think. The Rising.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's and it's iconic. I mean, not that this one's bad either, but
No, I like the second. I like the other one better. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's killer.
Yeah. Great
album. We have the Steel Fury album cover that was.
So that was my that's my first pick. Anybody else?
Okay.
Go ahead. Why don't we let's go counterclockwise. So we'll go Kevin, Steve, and then we'll just keep going that way.
Okay.
This is Kevin, what you got? This is going to go back to 1970, and this was their second album.
So we can
see all their albums, and it's going to be Trapeze Medusa.
Oh, nice.
Oh, that's a good one.
Little Glenn Hughes.
This is, with Glenn Hughes, and he was there probably, I think, 3 albums, possibly 4 at the most.
Yep.
And this one here and Black Cloud. If you had never listened to Trapeze and this album, just go listen to Black Cloud. It's kind of got a little doomy vibe, but it's kind of a heavy. It's hard to describe, but this album here, when I first got it, it was just on the cover, never hearing the band before. But the whole album is good. It's, for album number 2 from these guys, and there are other albums after this that are just as good. So
who was the drummer on that album? Wasn't it? That
was Dave Holland.
Yeah, Dave Holland, who of course passed away. Got into a lot of trouble for some stuff, and then later on, kind of find out that it wasn't true. And he was, from what I read, he was
play for Judas Priest for a while.
Right. But yeah, he got in some legal trouble after Priest, and then everybody kind of disowned him, and then it come to find out it wasn't true. So he got I guess they overturned his case. So good for him. All right, you're let's see where we're going. Oh, you're up, Steve.
So since Kevin took the 1970, I'll stay in the same year. This one is really the first great album from this band, because I think I can't even listen to their first album. I know Scott loves it. I sent him my copy of it, but Alice Cooper, Easy Action. This is where you start to hear the band that Alice Cooper would become. And I've always loved this one, so had to start there. You're on mute, Scott.
Sorry, I was blowing my nose and I didn't want anybody to hear my snot coming out. So, Ryan Roebuck's here. What's up, Ryan?
There's some good comments. Van Halen. I can't disagree with that one. In fact,
Alice in Chains Dirt. I thought about that one too, but I wanted to keep it more straight up metal, other than the Alice in Chains or the Alice Cooper that I just showed.
And the Van Halen, the first 3 records were basically recorded all in the same session, and they just sort of parceled them out, thinking that they're going to be on the road for 260 days a year and give them 30 days of rest and then whatever. But let's see, Hooded Menace. I saw them in Vegas at Doom in June once, and man, they were very impressive. But you already stole my thunder on Boston. I thought that was a great.
No, do it, show it, talk about it, because I actually agree.
Well,
but
as you know, that my day has not been exactly friendly, so I haven't pulled much. But I will talk about Boston. The first album is iconic. I think it's the perfect AOR rock record. It still holds up. I could play it. I play it on a loop. I mean, I play it once a month. But the second album, you almost have to play them back to back, because it almost makes sense to play them back to back, even though they were 5 years apart. But
that's kind of how I see it, kind of like bookends.
Yeah, they are bookends. And then by the third one, they were just I think they were too far gone. It was a lot of turmoil in the band. And the Barry Goodrow solo album very, very well could have been the third Boston record by hands down.
I hear that a lot on that album. That Goodrow album.
But that Goodrow album's
good album too.
But here's my my fan killer here, and I think I sent you. I didn't know if I was going to be here today, so I sent you my picks plus. If I thought the second album, the sophomore effort, was better than the first, in this case, the Boston, no, it's not. But I'll tell you one. Robin Trower.
That's one that I had picked on my list. I didn't pull it, but that's one I had on my list. That's
I'll talk
definitely
about it.
True.
I just picked up the 50th anniversary one that's got a live. The first record's like a remastered original stereo mix, and then the second record is a live version, Electric Ladyland. But everyone thinks that Bridge of Sighs is the first album. It's not. It's the second album. Twice Removed from Yesterday is the first one, and it's good, and I like it.
It's good. Yep.
But it is no Bridge of Sighs, so I would
put
an asterisk by that one.
Yep. That's where he made his mark, he said. And Dave Eagle and the title track, I mean, those two tracks alone.
I just thought the title track is the best song he ever recorded. You know?
Yeah. Well, Drew Rolling Stone. So.
And the follow-up album was great too. It doesn't get a lot of love, but that was a fantastic record too.
Yep.
Yeah. I think his first four were without question great records, but Bridge of Sighs takes the cake. That's an Islander for me, and it's way better. The sophomore effort was better than the freshman year. So
to me, those 70s albums were a little more heavier, and then he kind of phased out and went into more of a bluesier type.
Yeah, more of a bluesy thing, but almost too polished. And they lost the orange cabinets, the Marshall with a Strat playing straight through it.
A lot of the guitar guys did, though. Once they got into the 80s, it kind of, I don't know.
Who didn't lose it in the 80s was Frank Marino.
Yeah, true that.
But all right, I'm going to go next. And what's up, Mike? Mike said something about Iced Earth, and guess what my pick was?
I almost grabbed that one. Oh, there you go.
Album,
that's a great one.
Second album, love the first Iced Earth. I mean, I'm not saying this is a bad album at all. I love this album. However, they just upped their game here. This a lot of people consider Night of the Storm Rider their best album to date. I mean, I think it's one of their best as well. They switched out vocalists here. John Greeley sang on this album, and it was the only album he sang on. Dude's got a great voice. Very unique.
John Greeley, the guy we've had on here? He's singing on the second album, Iced Earth?
Yeah, John Greeley.
When did Barlow take over?
Barlow didn't take over until the fourth album or something.
Album?
He was on the Dark Saga.
And then they did that comp of all the early songs with Barlow singing them.
With Days of Purgatory or whatever.
But yeah, I just think this is a masterpiece. Brilliant album. But I also pulled this because this album is so freaking good, and this is John Greeley's album, Seventh Servant. It's his only album he put out outside of it, although he's working on the second Seventh Servant album. But this thing is fantastic, just very much in the same vein as Iced Earth, pretty much just straight up U.S. power metal pushing towards speed or thrash metal as well. But yeah, my copy's autographed. Look at that. I'm special.
That's what I loved about Iced Earth, though. Iced Earth were real good at mixing speed metal, thrash, power metal, U.S. power metal. I mean, it was a really cool blend.
I'll put, if anybody's interested in that Seventh Servant, I'll put a link up because I know it's not easy to find, but I know where you can get it at. So
yeah,
but anyhow,
really good.
You're up.
I'm still sticking in the 70s, but I'm moving up 3 years. And to me, this is what defined this band's music. They were great before, but this one really kind of moved them into another direction. Blue Oyster Cult, Tyranny, and Mutation. Man, this is an album that's solid from beginning to end. There ain't one bad track on this album. And it was like 76, I saw them live in the laser show they were doing. And they played quite a bit of this and Secret Treaties predominantly. It was like on your feet or on your knees tour.
I think their first 3 records were 3 perfect records. I mean, I love them.
To me, I think this is, I mean, a lot of people don't consider this metal, but I kind of put it right on that edge right there. You know, I mean, it's so close. The first 2 albums, or the second and third for me, they have that box set out, the Metal Years. I don't know if Scott, you may have it. It's on CD.
Yep, I have it.
And I mean, to me, that's the heaviest they have of all time for compilations. You know, I mean, but you can't go wrong. I mean, this is heavy. To me, this is heavy.
That was heavy 70s, man. That was, you know, that was the stuff that was scaring everybody back then.
Yeah, I saw them at the Salt Palace, and it was a scary show. I mean, the guy, you know, Eric Bloom cutting his hand with the knife and all that stuff. It was just different than what we'd ever seen. But yeah, man, Blue Oyster Cult's early stuff is great. Love it.
And even their early stuff with trying to think of the band here. They're not the Green Underbelly, or the Soft White Underbelly.
Soft White Underbelly?
The other band, that right after that. Stock Force. That's what they were. Get that if you want to hear some good early stuff. The Stock Force group.
Right on. You're up again.
So keeping it in the 70s, I know a couple of you guys will have this one, but I mean, this is not just one of the most important albums in metal, but it's pretty important for, you know, you really don't have new wave of British heavy metal without this. You know, this one is just up there. It's where the band kind of started to define their sound. Their first album was copying the classics, and then this is where you start to hear Judas Priest for who they really are.
I agree.
Yeah. I had a feeling that.
Yeah.
Do you think
one of those 10 out of 10 records that I constantly go to? Yeah, I knew everybody would have this one, but I still had to pull it.
But I still think, matter of fact, I was playing it for the show. I still think Rock and Roll is a great album.
I love Rock and Roll, but a couple of the songs sound like Sabbath. A couple of the songs sound like Uriah Heep. Whereas this one sounds 100% like Judas Priest. You don't hear the Sabbath anymore. You don't hear the Priest anymore, or the Uriah Heep anymore. This is all them, you know. And that from here, they just
they polished their second album up a lot better, you know, than the first. That first album was so raw sounding, where this one here is a little bit higher up, but it's fantastic.
Well, this one, I mean, you had Halford involved in this one too. The first one was really written for was it Atkinson? Was that his name?
Yep.
For Al Atkinson, you know, and they were supposed to record it, and then he left, and Rob came in and they just kind of threw it together from what I've read. Whereas this one, the band got together, they wrote it together, and just came out with, you know, I mean, just for the Tyrant, the Ripper, and Genocide. I mean, Victims of I mean, there's so many of their classic songs that they still play live on this record.
Yep. All right, John, you're up again. I'm going to solo you for a minute.
You're stealing my thunder here. Thunder in the East. Because I had Judas Priest on my list. I saw some Mark Massacre from Australia had Exodus. I had that start. I still think that Pleasure of the Flesh is better than Bonded by Blood. I know that's sacrilege, but fight me.
I actually agree with you.
Well, and so here, well, you might as well stay on the path of controversy. Metallica. I think Ride the Lightning is better than Kill 'Em All. I'm gonna say it right here.
I think Ride the Lightning is better than Master of Puppets.
I agree with you. I think Ride the Lightning is their best album.
So do I.
Okay.
Hey,
Anybody
Scott,
else?
throw me up real quick since he just mentioned both of them. I'll show
You
him.
can shrink me now. I don't have to be.
So there you go. He mentioned the Exodus and the
Yeah.
Ride the Lightning. So there's both of them right there.
Yeah, right there.
Yeah, I actually put that on my list too, and I was going to show that one because I thought somebody else might, but
I don't
disagree.
think that's the best Exodus record. But I think, I mean, you could argue Tempo of the Damned, or I'm sorry, Impact is Imminent is pretty dang good. But
I thought so.
But as far as the first two and the Sophomore Slump, no slump there on either two of those Bay Area bands. And I saw this Razor Evil Invaders. I agree.
God, those OGs are hard to find nowadays. Even
they
anywhere.
are. But yeah, I was there's something about Kill 'Em All that I just enjoy just because it's so raw and it's got like
I love Kill 'Em All. I love
that you just can't capture that. It's hard to capture in a studio, and I think they did capture that.
When I hear Kill 'Em All, I think about Destruction, the band Destruction, because those first two albums and that EP and the full length, the production is so horrific. But then you hear them play it live. And then when you go back and listen to the horrific recording, you say, gosh, that's such a great song that it doesn't matter that it's poorly recorded. And so
I think there's something to be said for production that's horrific, that actually sometimes bad production hurts an album. Sometimes it is part of the charm of the album.
I agree.
You know what kind of hurts Kill 'Em All for me, though? And I love it. Don't get me wrong. Especially when I first got into it in the late 80s. But then I went back and heard the demos with Mustaine playing. And all of those songs were 10 times better with Mustaine, and they were faster, more aggressive, And that's every time I hear that, I want to pull out the demos and listen to that because, and live too. Live, they played them more like the Mustaine versions where they were faster live than they were on the record as well.
All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to go next. I've got one here. I don't have the vinyl on this one, so I pulled the CDs. Unfortunately, I don't have the vinyl. I've been begging for a copy, but this is Devastation. Violent Termination was their first album. The band hates this album. They won't let anybody reissue it. I really wish they would, because a lot of people love it, and I get it. I know how it is when you don't like a recording. That's the way it is with. I can't stand my band's Fatal Delay demo, and people are always saying, "Can we release it? Can we release it?" By finally, just this year, released the Ultimatum Fatal Delay is coming out on vinyl.
Wasn't that your favorite, Kevin? Fatal Delay?
Yeah, Ultimatum Fatal Delay. But in any case, this is the album that followed it, and it's like night and day. It's not even. It almost sounds like a different band.
Well, better production and recorded in a real studio.
Better production. I think the vocals are better.
Yeah.
I just think he found his sound, his style. I just think the songwriting is a little better.
Well, Rodney,
I think the first album had. Go ahead.
Rodney will be the first to tell you that they didn't know what they were doing with the first album. I mean, they were just a bunch of like teenage kids with not even driver's license, just trying to play metal and trying to play as fast and as heavy as they could. And then once they sort of got a niche for it, or got a little practice under their belt and played a few gigs, the second album was just a natural occurrence, and it felt.
And it's fantastic. And then the third album, I think they upped the game even more. I think the third album's their best. But
that's a good one, Brian. I didn't even think about No Place for Disgrace. I love that record too.
Oh yeah, that is a good one. I like all three Devastations, but they're all three different.
I'm gonna cheat real quick because this one keeps coming up in the. I didn't pull
these.
I
thought about grabbing that, but I figured
I didn't pull these either. I actually ran over and pulled them when I soloed you guys.
Yeah.
But I actually think this is a bit controversial because most people think this album is better than this album. I met very few people who think Hotter Than Hell is better than the first Kiss album. I actually love them both about equally, but man, there is some. The thing about this one is about Hotter Than Hell is there's some freaking fantastic deep cuts that they hardly ever play live or talk about, but Mainline and Coming Home and Ace Frehley's Strange Ways, those are all great tracks on this album that are all Parasite. That's one of their heaviest tracks.
Yeah,
and that's not. I mean, yeah, it's just a great album. Gotta Choose, Going Blind. Going Blind showed some nice musicianship that everybody is accusing. Everybody's like, they can't play their instruments. They're just all about the look, but. It's definitely not just a crappy song.
That's the one I had to circle back around on that one because once I got jumped over that one to Dress to Kill, which is my favorite, Rock and Roll Over, another one of my favorites. It's like every other one, and then I kind of went back and I understand Love Gun and Destroyer a little better
I
now.
don't think Hotter Than Hell was pressed as good either. I've got some like a mint. I had a sealed original pressing of that one, and it's not recorded as good as the first one or the third record for some reason.
It's a little flat.
Yeah, I love it. Don't get me wrong. It's still one of my favorites. But yeah.
Hey, you got a greetings here.
Hey, I just said hey. Don't yeah, somebody mentioned King's X. Gretchen Goes to Nebraska. That's a fantastic one too. Actually, Rob Caldwell sent us his list, and that was one that was on it. So, yep,
here it is.
I've got promo copies of both of those too. That's funny.
Yeah, I have this one's kind of nice because it not only is it a promo copy, but it's fully autographed. I don't know if you can how well you can see it with the plastic on it. It even came with the promo photo with it, so that was kind of cool. But yeah, this is a great album. This is a freaking brilliant album. Just one of my all-time favorites, and it's also one of Rob's favorites. I pulled it because this was Rob's pick. So if anybody cares,
right on.
What do we got here? King's X offering a pre-order 3 live concert from Faith, Hope, and Love tour. Maybe that would be in your itinerary.
Oh yeah, I think that's a record store day offering, isn't it?
No, that's what you just did, isn't it, Scott?
No, there is a 3 LP live album coming out live in the UK that you can pre-order now at Boone's Overstock. But that's a more recent concert, and they do a whole bunch of songs from different eras of the band, and it's actually fantastic. I got to hear the test pressings, and actually, look at it. Here you go, King's X test pressings. These things are freaking brilliant. I was just amazed. I can't believe this thing has never been out on vinyl before. But in any case, that's another one of my picks. But yeah, I pulled extra, so I'm good. So who's next? We're going counterclockwise. So Kevin, you're up again. Sorry.
I'm up. So here we're going to go up to 1997 now, and my intro to this band, and they hooked me ever since. But their second album is where they kind of define their sound a little more. They were kind of classified as a clone band, but I'm going to show you the first one, which is Primal Fear.
Yeah.
They were classified as a Judas Priest clone band, and I mean, there's similarities there, but they still had their own sound there. But with that first one, I mean, you can get these now. They were only out on CD when they first came out, but
yep.
And then you moved to Jaws of Death, and that's kind of where they took a different direction. They kind of
it's a heavier, faster direction, but
right, yeah, it's faster. I think Ralph Sheeper's vocals are more prominent, I think, whereas I think this first one they were just a little bit lower. I mean, there's some brilliant songs on the first one. I mean, Chainbreaker is an absolute.
Yeah, I was going to say Chainbreaker is good, bar none. That's one of the.
Matt Sinner was in that band too, right? If I'm not mistaken.
What's that?
Because Matt Sinner was in that band too, right?
Well, he's the founder.
Is that Angel in Black? Does that have Angel in Black on it, or is that later?
Angel in Black, I think that was. I think that was on Nuclear Fire.
Okay, you're right.
Yeah, I think it was a third or fourth album.
That's another great one.
I mean, this era, I think the early era of Primal Fear was really, it's where they had to predominantly make their own sound, get away from that Judas Priest styling, but they're still plugging along. I follow them. I buy just about everything they ever put out. I mean, they're still one of my favorites. I've seen them 5 times. So,
they're still great.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
They even got a new lineup change. So they added a female guitarist. I can't remember what her name was right offhand, and a new drummer. So
they still have Ralph Sheepers and Matt Sinner though.
Yep.
You're up again, Steve.
I'm going to show a couple because
go for it.
I got a big stack here. So it's the last one from the 70s, and if you've watched me and hear any of my videos, this band always comes up, one of my all-time favorites. And this album was recorded in late 78, and this sounds like straight up 1983 metal. These guys are still one of my all-time favorites. But you got Narita from Riot.
Oh yeah.
Yep.
That's a good one.
So
That's a
love that
fantastic
one.
album.
Next up, I'm surprised nobody's mentioned it yet, but how can we not mention the final
about it.
piano album?
To me, to me, those are like the Boston albums or bookends. Back to back, you play them, and it's just
they're just And honestly, I've talked about this before. I love the Bruce era, but as I've gotten older, I find myself listening to the first two records more and more. And when I'm in the mood for Priest, it's one of these two records that I end up pulling out. And then the third one, I just showed this in a recent video because I just found this original pressing within the last month. But we've got King of the Dead from Sarah Thungle.
I thought about that, but man, I have a hard time saying it's better or even as good as the first album, which I think is freaking brilliant.
I think the first album is better, but it's still no Sophomore Slump. This is still a fantastic album. Their first record is just a perfect record. I don't think anything.
That's what I'm saying.
You know
it took
what I mean?
me a long time to get used to Sarah Thungle, but once I really got them, man, they are fantastic.
I think the first one anybody could get into because it's got just enough of that 70s sound that if you're into hard rock at all, you'll like the first record. Whereas this one, they kind of change their sound. It gets a little more eccentric. I still love this record, though.
Well, Mike Suarez beat me to the punch. I was going to say Venom. First two Venom.
For it. Talk about it.
I mean, the first two Venom.
He also mentioned this one, so I'll show it real quick. He mentioned
Sure.
Shout at the Devil as well.
I still think the first Motley Crue was their best album, but
And then
I just got a hook up on the Leather Records repress.
Yeah, I got the Leather Records one. I got the Leather Records.
They did the three shows in Hollywood at the Troubadour, at the three
Rainbow and the
what's the other one? The Whiskey.
Yep.
So they did a custom edition for each night. They only did like 200 copies, and it's they remastered the Leather Records pressing. So I got hooked up. They're already going for like $400 or $500 online. It's pretty crazy.
Let's see. So you're up again, John.
Well,
and yes, he is wearing a budgie shirt.
I know Scott's going to probably mention Aerosmith at some point, but do we already talk about Aerosmith? I don't think so.
No, but let's go ahead. Go ahead. Talk about
it. The first album I think is great, but the second album is the first Aerosmith record I ever bought when I was 13, and Get Your Wings still to this day is, I think, one of their finest works. I mean,
I do too.
Don't get me wrong. Toys in the Attic is great. Rocks is fantastic. Blah, 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 blah. But no Sophomore Slump with Aerosmith. And we already talked about Blood Incantation. All their albums are good, although they put out just EPs. But if you want to say so, the first album was the, the name's escaping me now. Something, the hidden species of mankind or whatever. No slump there, but how about Led Zeppelin 1 and 2?
I almost pulled that one out too, Led Zeppelin 2.
I was thinking about it today, and I love Led Zeppelin 2. That's my favorite. And then Physical Graffiti, and but yeah, how about Zeppelin? Anybody disagree with Led Zeppelin 2? And my star would be Zeppelin 2 better than Zeppelin 1, but it's kind of a toss-up.
They're kind of even for me. My favorite Houses of the Holy, but man, those two are just kind of perfect records.
Yep, I agree.
Especially for what, 69 and 70 or 68 and 69? When was it?
69 and 70. Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Let's see. Oh, someone's trashing the New Blood Incantation. No, it's not just an ambient record.
No, it's not. It's really
straight
good.
Up brilliant.
Aerosmith.
I'm one of the people that didn't like the EPs with the ambient stuff. It bored me to tears. I gave them away to another friend, but the new one is killer. Sorry, go ahead, Scott.
Yeah,
but that's all right. I was just going to talk about the Aerosmith a bit longer before I pick the next one, but I just think the musicianship was up as well as the songwriting. Of course, everybody loves Dream On this one, but I mean, every song on here is freaking great. Seasons of Wither is one of my all-time favorite songs. I remember hearing Space for the first time and just thinking it was awesome. Woman of the World is fantastic. Lord of the Thighs and Same Old Song and Dance was actually kind of a hit for him as well. So even though it wasn't a hit at the time, it became a hit later on when they put it out on the Greatest Hits album, which is kind of bizarre. But
yeah, did a lot of tripping to that album.
Yeah, I know they were a mess. Chemically, they were a mess. But man, That Aerosmith record is actually the third album I ever purchased as a youth, and it does have a special place in my heart. And so I went back and I was a little disappointed in the first one. I just thought, and I mean, I like Walking the Dog and Dream On and all that, but
it's the voice. I mean, he changed his voice for that first record to make the record label happy. And that's what I think hurts that album. They're all great songs. It's a great album, but the voice is what throws it off.
Yeah. But once again, you know, young minds, young skulls full of mush, and I was duly impressed. So
this one has Make It, Somebody, Dream On, One Way Street, Mama Can, Write Me, Moving On, and Walking the Dig. So
I've been trying to find that one for like 15 years. I can never find a good copy of it.
It's always beat, or it has a beer bottle stain on it on the cover.
There you go. But, Walking the Dig. Well, it's more. That's not the only thing different about it, too. I mean, this is geeky, Aerosmith fanatic crap. But there's actually this write-up on the back, which is a kind of a fake bio about the band, and this bio only exists on those copies. It's changed on every other copy. There's stuff on here about Joey Kramer being a juvenile delinquent and all that kind of stuff. They removed all that stuff for further on all the other pressings. So. It's just got more text on the back than the other one, besides being Walking the Dig. But yeah, this is actually a Canadian pressing. That's Canadian first pressing with the wrong title. But anyhow, let's move on because we're running out of time. This one here is for Damien Hair Metal. See if he thinks so.
Oh, that's a good one.
I forgot about that.
Yeah, I love that record.
This is a good album. I like it a lot. It's more of a straight heavy metal album. They found a sound here that's very unique to them, what sounds like them. The video for this the song "Stand Tall" is freaking brilliant. I don't know if everybody's ever seen it, but they do everything. It's like a DIY video, and it's just brilliant. But yeah, I love this album. I know people aren't big Killer Dwarfs fans unless you're into that style of metal, but I am. So yeah,
I have that in my first album collection, that Killer Dwarfs.
It's hard to find now. It's especially Stand Tall. That thing is really hard to find. It sells for hundreds of dollars if you can find a copy. But
I used to see it in the cutout bins all the time, and now I never ever see it.
No,
and then
virtually impossible.
Speaking of ones that I consider bookends, where the first album and the second album are kind of equals.
Oh yeah.
Rock Until You Drop and Wiped Out.
Hang on. Here you go. Got the neat records pressing for you.
There you go. Same here. This is one of the things I liked about some of the old new wave of British heavy metal bands back then was that they would like the first pressings would actually be autographs, and this is one of those original. If you can see autograph things, and it has all the ticket stubs and all kinds of other crap that came with it back then. But yeah, this is really raw recording. I mean, they almost sound like they recorded at the same time. Pretty much they were live in the studio with both these albums, and they
sound like they're on that album cover right there.
Yeah, and I love this album. This album cover sucks. It always has, but this album cover is freaking awesome.
I had that on cassette for like 15 years before I realized the band was even in the picture because the cassette had such a small picture.
And they were so young, man. They were like kids here. Yeah. But in any case,
hey, we were all kids at one point.
How about I'll show one more. I still got more to get. I'm sure you all do, but I'll do one more just because we're running out of time. This one I don't think is that controversial, but this is a good album. This is a freaking awesome album.
Yeah.
I like Not on Rockin'. I think it's a good kind of a Iron Maiden. We want to be Iron Maiden kind of record.
Spectre was fantastic.
Spectre, they just found their sounds and they continued on with it. They got a little proggy. It's not prog at all, but they just started getting a little more complex in the songwriting. And John Ark's vocals are just fantastic. So yeah, that's another one of my picks. But you're up again, Kevin.
Back into the 70s here from I think it's 73 with.
Oh, that's a good one.
Rock and Roll.
Rock and Roll.
Yeah, I thought about Foghat too. That's a good pick.
I mean, the first one's a masterpiece with Maybelline, all that on there, but this one here is kind of right up there. And the 70s Foghat was the best Foghat, no doubt. But it's just a plain cover. I mean, the classic lineup: Lonesome Dave, Roger Earl. I mean, doesn't get any better than this one. Classic.
Yep, I agree.
I think
Yeah.
they're playing here. They're playing here in Dallas Fort Worth area this weekend, and I can't imagine who's even still in the band.
I think it's
They're
just the
actually
one.
up
Isn't
for
it
a
the bass
Grammy
player?
this year. They're up for a Grammy this year. Not that it's a big
I
deal,
mean,
but
Lonesome Dave is gone. Price is gone. Who?
Yep.
Who?
Roger Earl.
Roger
Roger
Earl,
Earl.
yeah.
Oh, Roger Earl.
He
Okay.
continues to run the band. Yep.
Yep.
Okay.
They're
Well,
up for best contemporary blues song.
really?
Yeah.
It's a good album. It's a really good album from them.
Sonic
That last
Mojo,
fall.
yeah.
Matter of fact, I got it sitting right here. Because I was just spinning it. Is it?
Or
Here
Sonic.
it is.
Yeah.
Sonic Mojo.
Yeah, Sonic Mojo. I have that one as well.
But I'm kind of surprised that it's up for a Grammy because it was actually recorded and released last year. But it kind of came out at the end of the year, so I guess I get it. Right on. Where are we at?
Back to
Steve.
me. So since Mike just mentioned it, I went ahead and grabbed it. But this band, their album Oddfellows Rest, I think is one of the heaviest metal albums ever released. It's slow and just turning and heavy. But their sophomore album is fantastic as well. You got the self-titled from Crowbar.
Mm.
These guys don't have a bad release, man. Kurt just has that perfect voice. I actually like his earlier stuff when he was an alcoholic. I think his writing was better back then. It was a lot darker. I like his new stuff too. Don't get me wrong, but man, these first few records are killer. And then Scott and I have talked about this before. Like if anybody were to ask me what the prototype for a thrash album would be, it would be this one right here. One of my all-time favorites, Peace Sells, But Who's Buying, from Megadeth. Just one of those perfect albums. And when I think of that thrash metal sound, this is the album that I always think of. This and probably the first Belladonna, Anthrax have kind of.
I remember seeing that video for the first time when all the guys they're all just like behind a cage and there's like beers being slung. I mean, they're just like swinging on all the things. That is like the greatest video ever.
Yeah,
that's what I thought back in the '80s. I was like, that's incredible. But in any case,
then we got a little bit of from the U.S. power metal greats. We got The Dark.
Oh,
yeah, that's one. Yep,
great one.
Love this record. It gets overshadowed by the first and third record for some reason, which I don't understand because this one is it may not be as good as the first one, but it's right there. And Scott's favorite song is the first track on this album as well.
Oh yeah, recorded a cover of that song. We made it a thrash metal track.
And then last but not least, I'm surprised John hasn't mentioned this one, but this I don't know if it's this one or Human, but this is definitely one of my favorites. You've got Leprosy from the Mighty Death.
That's the only Death I have on vinyl. I have all the cassettes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's
that
great.
one. The first one was super raw. This one, you still got the rawness, but you've got the better playing and the better studio recording than the first one. And this one just kind of is where Death really grabbed me.
Got some good suggestions here. Rush, Fly By Night.
Yeah.
Yep.
Absolutely.
That is a great record.
That was one of the ones I have a list of like 50 artists that I wrote down. Then I just pulled,
Somebody mentioned State of the Grind. I almost grabbed that one as well. I think that's the best thing that band ever
did. That's when Neil Peart joined Rush.
Yeah.
Yep. A Fierce Heart, absolutely, man. The second Fierce Heart is freaking awesome.
I saw the Rush with the original drummer
John Rutsey.
Yeah.
Jeez, Louise, that's a throwback.
Yeah,
Gary mentioned Images, and Neil Peart was so good that they overshadow how good he was on that. The drums on that first record are fantastic.
Yep.
And unfortunately, he had health problems and had to move on. But man,
I mean, he wasn't a bad drummer. He just wasn't Neil Peart. But who?
Yeah, well, nobody's Neil Peart though is the thing,
Right.
But that first Rush album, I still play it. I play that more than Fly By Night easily. I love that first record.
Yep.
I play Fly By Night and Crest of Steel quite a bit because
I was going to say Vitor and the Snow Dogs. Slow your roll there, buddy.
I want to know how many people have heard the second Fierce Heart album.
I don't think I even know the band.
Oh my gosh, man! That second Fierce Heart album is superb. The first one's good too. They were an 80s band. Rex Carroll was the guitar player.
Yeah. I'm the one that I sent you a copy of their debut. Yeah, the second.
Yeah, the debute's good, but but like 3-4 years ago, they put out 5 years ago. I don't know what it was. They put out a second album, and that thing's fantastic. So yeah, that's a great album. So anyhow, who's up? Where are we?
John.
John.
And I'm going to just since we're getting long in the tooth here. So I had a couple other things on my list, like municipal waste, merciless death, toxic holocaust. We all know that there's not been a havoc. There's never been a slump of any of those new modern thrash bands. But then here's my honorable mention. And I would be a bad host of the Metal Roundtable if I didn't mention Osric Tentacles. Their first two albums were fantastic, and their guitarist Ed Wynn released an album and released a second album, and they're both fantastic. So no slump there either. But how about Ted Nugent?
Oh yeah.
Okay.
I would say the first two Ted Nugent solo albums are again like Boston or
the first
Iron
Ted
Maiden,
Nugent solo album is one of the greatest albums of all time.
Agreed.
Stranglehold. There is not a bad second on that record.
That's a legendary album.
Yeah.
I don't think Free for All's better than the first one, but it was certainly, like you said, Steve, earlier, that it wasn't a slouchy record.
Yeah.
How about Slayer?
I thought about pulling it.
How about Grand Funk Railroad?
I think that those are also bookends. Both of them are great.
Okay. How about Forbidden Evil and Twisted into Form?
Yeah.
Yep, I think those are bookends too.
Then they did that live in Eindhoven, and then they got just weird. Distortion,
I like the weird
green.
stuff too, though.
Testament. We sort of touched on them earlier, but Legacy and the New Order. I love the New Order. Violence, Eternal Nightmare, and
I was going to pull that one as well.
Can't go wrong with either one of those. That's what I got. That's my list.
All right. Well, I'm gonna, since we're getting in there, I got some 80s stuff here. I got a couple more 70s, so I'm just gonna get into it. How about I should flip this over. I mean, I love Hard and Heavy, but there's no way that Metal and Metal is, most people hold it as their best album ever.
Yeah,
so.
Different sounds though. Hard and Heavy was more that 70s hard rock, and then with
Hard and Heavy was definitely very inspired by
Metal on Metal. That was straight up proto thrash.
You could definitely hear the Ted Nugent influence throughout. Matter of fact, they even used a Ted Nugent lick on here intentionally in part of one of their songs. But I mean, yeah, we're out. That's where I actually talked to Lips one time when I saw him play live, and he's like, "Where do you think I got the inspiration to play the Hollow Bodies?" So, yeah, Nugent. But yeah, there's not. I don't think anybody would argue with that one.
No.
How about?
There you go.
First album's great.
Oh yeah.
But this
Second
album here
great.
is an absolute masterpiece, in my opinion.
Yep.
Even though the cover sucks and you can barely see the logo unless you get the right light on it. But saw them on this tour. They were great. They were touring with TT Quick. James Rivera is one of my favorite vocalists.
Oh yeah.
I
thought about that one too, William. Weapons of Our Warfare. But I figured Scott would pull it.
I thought about it.
Yeah.
How about?
Yeah, there you go.
79 and then 80. There's no doubt. This was just such an improvement. There you go. Wheels of Steel was just such a big change in sound. I mean, it's just Biff sounds the same on both, but man, they were just writing the anthems here, man. And of course, Wheels of Steel is pretty much considered one of their best albums.
Yeah, I was gonna pull that too.
I love the punky feel of this one, but who's going to deny Overkill being one of the great albums of the 70s, you know?
Absolutely.
Started the whole double kick thing.
Yeah. And it all started with him just goofing around the studio and
warming up his feet.
And it's sad because that, you know, you think it's weird to think about, but there's nobody left from this band alive anymore.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
From this band,
original,
from this
the original
era.
lineup.
Yeah.
Yeah, that stinks.
And
I love Motorhead.
And I just dropped the next batch on the floor here.
Well, I got two left here, and I'm done.
Okay, cool. I'll put you as soon as I finish these couple. I'll put you up next.
Okay.
I was gonna pull that one too, but I knew you would pull it.
I like this album a lot. It's very thrashy, definitely inspired by the likes of Creator and Sodom and Destruction and Slayer and that kind of stuff. But here they just became one of the the great death metal bands of the early 90s. I mean, what was this? 1991, 92, something in that area.
Yeah.
And it's a freaking brutal album. This is actually one of the Nuclear Blast pressings, white vinyl. But yeah, and then one more. Hang on, I'm almost there. One more 70s album, and this one I don't know. This one might be a little. I know a lot of people love their first album, and I do too. But
there you go.
I thought
Angel,
with the second album they got heavier. The keyboards took a backseat to Punky's guitars, whereas the first album it was definitely keyboard heavy. You know, and I don't know. I love them both. I mean, there's no denying how cool a pomp prog song that Tower is, but I don't know. This album is just freaking brilliant.
I saw them touring with Max Webster and Rush on All the World the Stage tour.
Oh, that'd be cool.
What a great lineup.
Yeah,
that was up there.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Kev. Show what you got.
All right, I got two left here. First one is Rock-A-Rolas.
Oh yeah.
Back to their second album here. I mean, they did I think 5 albums, but to me this is better than their first one. This came out, 2014 on Underground Power Records. Of course, Stormspell always has their hand in it. And my last one is, the first one from this band was it's a legend. But this one here is right up there as well.
Oh, yeah, that's a fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Annihilator, Never Neverland.
Annihilator doesn't really have a bad album. People just kind of stopped listening to them, which is sad because they're fantastic still.
Even their new stuff, their 3-piece stuff with Jeff Waters singing is
fantastic.
Wicked.
Yeah, it's so good.
I still prefer the Joe Camoa vocals over any of them, though.
Yes, Steve Rowe is still around. Steve,
I got four more that I'll fly.
He had a stroke. Yeah, Steve Rowe had a stroke a couple years ago, so he doesn't play music anymore, and he rarely does anything in public. But yes, he's still alive.
His health isn't good though. He's been having
his health
issues
is not
the
good.
last, for his whole life. But really, the last 10 years has been really bad. He's having trouble.
Yeah,
he can't do shows anymore. He has trouble. Steve Rowe.
Steve Rowe, Mortification.
Oh yeah.
Go ahead, Steve. Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's fine. I don't know if Ryan's still floating around, but we've mentioned this so much this year. Just a fantastic sophomore album. If you guys haven't grabbed this yet, just killer thrash. You guys will love this one. I love the first one too, but they just kind of took it to another level with this one. Probably my second favorite band of all time, a hometown band for me. Finally got an original pressing of this. It took me forever to find a clean copy, but independent from Sacred Reich. Another album. There's not a bad moment on this record from beginning to end. It's just fantastic. Going back to the power metal, I'm surprised. And actually, this one is this may still be their biggest album, but Follow the Blind from Blind Guardian.
That's good.
Absolutely love this one. And then last but not least, I think this one is actually better than the debut, and most people would probably disagree with me, but I'm going to go with Lucifuge from Danzig. Just a 12 out of 10 record for me. I love this thing. So that's everything I pulled.
That's everything I pulled, but I did
I
make a list.
I pulled nothing, but I will say that listen to the new Blood Incantation, everybody. you won't be disappointed. And go buy Osric Tentacles. And by the way, Shannon Fry, Avenger of Blood, their debut album was ripping. Their second record I thought was ripping, and their new stuff, wait till you hear it. It's gonna scald your brain.
They've never stopped being a great band.
Dude, they're no letdown there.
You know, they've stuck with their sound, which may be why people don't like them as much, or they don't get mentioned as much. But man, they're fantastic.
No,
here's
awesome.
Here's a few more I wrote down real quick before we go.
That's a good one, William. The Vengeance Rising.
Yep.
Yeah, I thought about that one. Vengeance Rising is one of the things on this list. How about Dirty Looks, Viking?
Oh yeah, the 2 Viking records. Didn't you just put those out on? Was that No Life to Metal, Boone's Overstock, whatever?
Yeah, Brutal Planet. Yep,
Brutal Planet. Okay.
Hades.
I was getting there.
Hades, Nasty Savage, Dark Angel.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
How about Blood Rock? Blood Rock 2 is freaking fantastic.
How about Death Angel? Speaking of angels.
Yep. How about Def Leppard?
I have that right there. I was gonna pull it, but I think the first record is just so much better that I didn't end up pulling it. But yeah, I thought about pulling the 3 Inches of Blood too, because that second album is just a meat grinder of a metal album. Highly recommend checking those guys out.
Mahogany Rush, I thought that was another one where the first album was Jimi Hendrix Worship. The second one, they kind of came into their own sound.
Yeah.
This is one that probably not a lot of people know, but how about One Bad Pig? King Diamond, Triton. This is a big one for me. Messiah Prophet. Their first album, I thought it sucked. But their second album, Master of the Metal, I still love it to this day. The Crucified, Barren Cross, Galactic Cowboys, Tourniquet.
Lee, that's a great one. The second Ram Jam is a great hard rock album. It's super. If you guys haven't heard the second Ram Jam, don't think about Black Betty or that album. The second album is just killer hard rock.
That is the best one. No doubt.
How about Holy Moses, Hellion? And here's one for you, Carcass. 6 Feet Under.
You know what? Warpath is okay. I like it, but other than that,
Warpath is the only one I still have.
That was your second album.
Oh, was it Warpath?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I love that record.
Then they shot their wad on Warpath, and then I was done with them.
Actually, I have it right here.
Labyrinth. Let's see, Havoc.
Yeah, I mentioned Havoc. How about Down? Phil and
Creator.
Haunt.
I also thought about pulling Moxie too.
Deliverance, Budgie. Dream Theater, which I saw a few people mentioning. I actually like their second album.
Words. The only reason I didn't pull that is because I think the Mirror, not the Mirror. What's that? Is it the Mirror that's after Images and Words? I just like that record so much better. Voivod, that's another great one, Brian. Their second record is, oh my God.
Is it Killing Technology and Roar?
Oh, yeah.
And then 1971. And then the other one is, I think their best.
Thank you.
Their first album was good, but their second album was great, was Nevermore.
Oh, yeah.
UFO. You know, I love the first two UFO records, but I wouldn't put that as, even though I love the first two UFOs, I wouldn't put it anywhere near as good as the third through the seventh album.
Yeah. Exactly. That's kind of why I didn't pull them. But anyhow, man,
yeah. Same thing with Deep Purple. I love the first three Deep Purples, but they're not near as good as the 70s releases.
No.
That was a whirlwind of a show right there, but we got through it.
Yeah, we did.
And I appreciate everybody watching, man. We had quite a few people watching today. So I appreciate everybody watching and commenting. I was actually having a hard time keeping up with all the comments that were coming through, which is fantastic. So
been a blast, guys.
Anyhow, appreciate having you on, Kevin. Where can people find you at on YouTube?
Oh, you can just go over to Old Metal Rocker and you'll find me there on YouTube.
Okay, right on.
Old Metal Rocker 65.
And let's see if I'll pull this stuff up so we can be professional here. You can find Steve, there we go, on YouTube at Harmless Rebel 868.
And Harmless_Rebel at Instagram. Or I'm sorry, is it Instagram? Yeah, Instagram.
You can find John on Instagram at Carcass John Art. You can find me on Instagram at No Lights Metal, or you can find me on YouTube at No Lights Metal, or just searching Scott Waters. Either one of them will get you there. So that's it for episode number 244. Appreciate everybody watching. That was freaking awesome. I enjoyed it. It went so quick, man. It was like, dang, an hour's gone already. So, you know how we do it at the end. So let's go ahead and do it. Metal will prevail. And then I leave you all hanging while I try and figure out what the heck's going on here, because we don't have Rob to be professional for us here.
Somebody mentioned Captain Beyond. The first and third Captain Beyond albums are perfect to me. I didn't like the second one as much.
And if you don't like that, 128dbrock.com free app.
Yeah,